So we're picking a jury on a case, and it's a shooting case. And what you get are you get these sheets, and it basically has some limited information as to how old the person is, what section of the city they live in, their occupation, their spouse, if they have kids. And in your mind, you have jurors that you think there are maybes, there's yeses, and there's nos. And I'm up to juror number 17, and it's a 72-year-old lawyer from Chestnut Hill who's retired, and his wife was a physician, and it said that he was born in Utah. So in my mind, he's a juror that I'm absolutely striking because he just seemed too conservative to sit on my jury in a case where we're going to determine identification of a shooter. So it was my turn to ask questions first. Everybody gets a turn. And I had no questions because in my mind, he's an absolute strike. But the DA, I guess, didn't get that. So she started asking, when you were a lawyer, did you ever do any criminal work? And his answer was, well, in 1972, I sued Frank Rizzo when there was some police issue, but I really don't remember. And I was a law clerk for a federal judge. And she said, well, do you think any of that experience back in 1972, of all things, would influence you in a way that would make you unable to be fair today in this jury here? And again, in my mind, I'm thinking, why are you even asking questions? Because I'm striking him in a second. And he said, no, I think I could be fair. And she said, is there anything about your career as a lawyer that would cause you to be unfair? And he said, well, only in a case where the only evidence is eyewitness identification. And I almost fell off my chair. And she said, excuse me, because that was our exact case. And I certainly saw him in my mind as somebody that would take the word of a victim of a crime, that this is the person that did it, because I saw it and I believed it was him. And she said, you're saying that you would be fair or you wouldn't be fair? And he goes, well, that's not a really good question. In my mind, I would be fair, but I would need more than just the identification of an eyewitness. And she said, well, you're a lawyer. You know the law is not that. And he said, miss, I know you're not going to accept me on my jury, but let me ask you a question. Do you know who Peter Neuwirth is? And she said, I don't. And he looked at her, and it wasn't even condescending. It was really resounding, and said, well, you should. He started the Innocence Project, and that was 30-some years ago. He was my roommate in law school. And 368 people have been exonerated that were identified as being the perpetrators of crime by DNA evidence. Innocent people. And she said, well, thank you. And he said, before you thank me, and before you go to take somebody's liberty, you ought to know this as well. 258 of those people, they confessed. And I almost fell over. And it really gives some level of reason to what you do when you think that you thought the best part of the story was that these 368 people were cleared by DNA. But the most amazing part was, of those people, 250 went on paper and said they did it.